Hi there guys, and welcome to another video. So today I've got my friend Stefano from across the sea over in the United States. Hi Stefano, how's it going, man?
Hey Ed, everything's going well over here.
Cool, man. So what have you been up to lately? Anything much?
Not a whole lot, just playing games, making content when I can, and that's really it, day in, day out.
Sounds good to me. So anyway, we did try and make a video a while ago, but unfortunately some of the footage got a little bit broken. There was missing sound, etc. So today we're going to do it all again, and with a few little changes, because Unraid RC1 has been released, which is pretty cool, and that allows us to integrate Tailscale into Docker containers. Now, if you haven't already seen it, then please go across to the Uncast show, where you'll find both me and Stefano over there. So, a great channel to subscribe to if you haven't already. And you will see the latest Uncast show. It should be out by the time this video airs, where you'll be able to see in detail all about Tailscale in Unraid. But for now, so I think today what we're going to do is look at how people can carve out a piece of their server and be able to give it to a friend for a friend to be able to back up to. So what we want to make sure is it's very secure, and only what we give access to our friends to be able to back onto is the only thing that they can actually see. So what we're going to be using is we're going to be using a Duplicati container. We're going to install Tailscale into that Duplicati container, and then we're going to install another container which I call Tailvault, which will be a destination container, which I'm going to give to Stefano to download, and he's going to download that on his server. I'm going to put Duplicati on my server, and then Stefano will be able to share his Tailvault container with me, and I'll be able to use that as a destination for my backups. And then we're going to do that in reverse. Stefano's going to install Duplicati on his server. I'm going to install Tailvault on my server, and I'm going to give Stefano a little bit of my server for him to do some backups with. Now, the great thing about Duplicati is the backups are all encrypted locally before they're sent across. So Stefano won't be able to steal all of my super secret data, all of my Pop! OS ISOs and other pictures and stuff like that. And I won't be able to steal all of Stefano's. What's the game you're playing at the moment, Stefano?
Escape from Tarkov.
And how many years have you been playing that for?
I don't know, like 3.
I was saying to Stefano before we went on air, that must be the best value game he's ever bought. So anyway, let's start on your server, Stefano. So we can see here we're on Stefano's server, and it looks like Stefano's given it a very nice name. Stefano, what have you called that one?
Project Network Attack Storage, or PNAS.
I should have actually named my server the same as that, but the letter A instead of P, I think, and then that would have been getting you back a little bit for that, yeah. But anyway, this is meant to be a family-friendly channel, so we won't talk about.
It's Project Network Attached Storage. I don't see the problem.
Stefano's dodgy naming conventions here, but anyway, right. So here we are on Stefano's server. We're on Unraid 7 RC1. And so if you don't mind, Stefano, I'm going to have a look at what shares we've got here. We've got one here, backups for Ed. And so we've got backups for Ed here, and Docker containers. We don't have any, so that's perfect. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you go across to community applications and do a search for Tailvault. Okay, so all we need to do is to fill in the template. So what we're going to do, Stefano, is just link this here to the backups Ed here. And we need to just make an SFTP user and password we're going to use. So let's call it Duplicati. And we need to have a super strong password. No one's allowed to know what that is.
Pretty sure that's password, Ed.
Oh, how did you know, Stefano?
It's the same number of characters.
Damn it. Right, so we're going to pull down the container first. And this is just a very minimal container. It's probably only about 6 megs in size, so it's very lightweight. It will hardly use any resources on people's servers, which is really good. And so we can see it running there. And the icon for this is a little kind of Fallout guy with the Tailscale logo underneath. And I said to Stefano, he'll like that because he's also got a slightly different Fallout person there.
I have Vault Girl, and that's Vault Boy. Huge Fallout fan. Got a mini nuke right there.
Oh, nice. So, container's running, and it's mapped to the correct place. So now let's actually install Tailscale into this container here. So we're going to need your credentials for that, for your Tailnet. If you've seen the other videos, you'll know how easy it is now to install Tailscale directly into a container. So all we need to do is toggle use Tailscale, and let's give this a name. So Tailvault Stefano, and then when Stefano shares this with me, I will know this is on Stefano's server. Now, we don't need it to be an exit node, we don't need it to use an exit node, and we also don't need Tailscale serve. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, why don't we use Tailscale SSH? Well, we can't really, because things like Duplicati like to use a password for their SSH, and they are not aware of using Tailscale SSH. So SSH is built into this container, and that's why we've got the username and password here. So let's scroll down to the bottom and click on to apply. And now that's done, because Tailscale's been installed, we need to click on view log here. It's really nice to have the view log button at the bottom here anyway, I think, even if you're not using Tailscale. So we need to authenticate this here with Stefano's Tailscale. So I will let you do this bit, sir.
Pretty sure I just signed in with Google, so we'll just...
Okay, great. So the first thing you want to do when you're here, if this is something you're going to be using long term, is you want to click Visit Console. And we just need to click on the 3 little dots here and disable key expiry. Otherwise, after I think it's 90 days, the key will expire and then this container will stop working. So if Stefano is to share this out to me, I can't access anything else in his Tailnet at all. I can only access this one container. And all this one container can access is the bind mount on his Unraid server, so I can't access any of the other shares. Now, if I did SSH into here, I would be able to access these other bind mounts here, like the config file and this general opt unraid tailscale file as well. But it's really secure because there's nothing else that I can actually access. And also, the type of network that this is on is a bridged network, so I'm not actually bound to his host network either. So you shouldn't be giving this container to anyone you don't trust anyway, but yeah. You don't really want people poking around and, looking through your server. Only bind mount shares that you want your friends to be able to back up to. Okay, so let's go back across here. And now I'm going to ask Stefano to share this out to me. So let's type YouTube at spaceinvader.1. So this is going to send me a link that will allow me to join onto his Tailnet and be able to access this particular container. So let's click share. Okay, and so now I've just accepted the link there. And so now that one container is now also in my Tailnet as well. So now let's install onto Stefano's server Duplicati, because he's going to need that to connect to Tailvault on my server. So again, just go to the apps tab and do a search for Duplicati. I'll let you drive from here, Stefano.
Okay.
So let's use the Linux server one, I reckon. These are quite important. The path here where it says backups, this is where Duplicati will back up on the local server. And you can see here, Stefano's got this other folder here for other backups. how we're going to be using Duplicati, we're not going to be using this at all, but it just needs to be filled in. So the important bit here is the source path. So for most people, you'll probably want to set it to /MNT/user. And then from inside of Duplicati, you can choose whatever you want to actually back up. So settings encryption key, just make a nice strong key, at least 8 characters long. So we can leave this empty here, and the Duplicati web service password is just the password to enter the web UI. So Stefano, if you want to pop in a password for that. And then I reckon let's pull down the container, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, whilst this is pulling down, I'm going to send an invite from my whatever it's called.
Your Tailscale vault?
From my Tailvault container across to Stefano. So let me do that, and let me just see what Stefano's email is. So Stefano, I must ask you, where did the name SPX Labs come from?
So SPX comes from when I used to play Halo CE originally on Xbox forever ago, when one day we're playing Halo on Xbox Connect, which basically allows you to play on the LAN over the internet. So just, I don't know, it takes like a LAN connection over the internet. And back then,
was this on the original Xbox?
The original Xbox, yeah.
Oh, nice.
And so back then I used to be Space XB, which was I guess my gamer tag originally. And then one day we're in a very competitive match in Halo, and one of my friends just said, "Spix, guard the base." And then ever since then, all of my friends have been calling me Spix, or SPX for short. And then at some point, for YouTube purposes, originally, like, it was just my name was my YouTube channel, but I really didn't like that. I was just using my name because it was, I don't know, it just didn't seem cool. So I was like, it would be cool, Labs. So SPX Labs was born like 6-7 years ago. I don't even remember how long ago, and that's just how it came about.
Yeah, it's like a really cool name. I've always thought, that's really cool. And, yeah, my name, Space Invader 1, think like, what's that got to do with like Linux and servers? Nothing. Yeah. Well, I actually planned on doing a retro gaming channel when I first started, and there was always meant to be a bit of retro stuff in, but I think I've probably done 2 retro videos in the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, however long I've been doing this.
Nice. At least the name is cool.
I think I started.
I like Space Invader 1. I think it's a great name.
Yeah. I was very lucky as well. I managed to buy the domain name spaceinvader.1.
Yeah.
So that was
very
cool.
lucky.
Yeah. I wish there was a .two domain extension, and then I could have a secondary channel, but there isn't. So no secondary channel.
Oh, man.
Then it'd be like, in the UK, we have like BBC One, BBC Two, things like that. So it would have kind of been a bit like a TV channel, 1 and 2. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to where we are. So Stefano, you should have an email if you want to just jump into your email and accept my invite, please.
Okay, just a moment.
Okay, so there's mine now. I really should have named it Tailvault-ed, which should have been a bit easier. But so here's mine here, and here's the IP address, the Tailscale IP of my Tailvault. So we're going to need to have Duplicati as well, having Tailscale built into it, and then it will be able to make a connection. So what I'm going to show you here is we've got this as a bridged network at the moment. So I'm going to install Tailscale into this with a bridged network, and we're not actually going to use a bridged network, but I want to show you that because using a bridged network is basically like double natting in effect. So when you've got on both sides it being double natted, Tailscale will often use a derp server to kind of get around not being able to make a direct connection. So let's just put Tailscale into here, and I will show you how you can test whether you actually have a direct connection or not. If I can get you to fill this in, because my cursor's not going, if we just call this Duplicati-Stefano or something. And again, we don't really need anything. We'll have Tailscale serve, which is selected at the moment, which is going to be useful for us. And yeah, that's it. So if we just scroll to the bottom and click apply. So what software are you using for backup yourself, Stefano, nowadays?
I'm just still using user scripts and rsync underneath that. Just very simple. So from one server to the other, and it does it every Friday, and it's just super simple.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool, because we could actually use rsync with this container as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be quite possible to use rsync and be able to rsync across to our Tailvault container. Right, so let's click View Container Log, and if you want to click onto the Authenticate link, please, Stefano, up the top there. And just connect that one in, and let's go and visit the console. So there we've got Duplicati as well. So if we go across onto Stefano's server here, onto Project NAS, good old Project NAS here, and we go to Settings and hit Tailscale and go to Status. So here we can see the various things that are connected. Here we can see my Tailvault here. Let me check that I haven't stopped it. I probably have, knowing me. Yes, it's off. How stupid, hey?
So, no one's asked me what SPX stands for, because, it's all capitalized. So the name of it's kind of, I've never really thought of like a good name. Like you could be like, oh, Stefano Partita Experimentation Labs or something like that. But I've kind of, in my head, I was like, science projects and experimentation. I really like that a lot.
Or it could be Special Project X NAS.
Something like that, yeah. I mean,
that's what it means, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could probably put that in front of my host name, XPNAS. Yeah, I like that. It's a good one.
Oh, dear. I'm sorry, everyone. He's a joker. I do miss you, man. You need to come back to the UK.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so here is my Tailvault, and my Tailvault is bridged. I deliberately want it bridged just so it's not on the host network, just so it's just a little bit safer not to have it on the host network. If someone SSHs into your actual Tailvault container, they just won't really be able to do anything. But also this Tailvault container, it's got no package manager, it's got nothing in it at all, so you can't install any extra packages into it, and it's only just got its bind mounts going to the shares or folders in shares that we want to be able to give our friends access to. So when I click ping here, so obviously this is Stefano's server, which is on the host network, so it's not kind of like double natted. If we click ping here, I'm hoping we're going to see a direct connection. And direct connection could not be established. That's interesting.
Maybe need to open supports?
It depends how, strict your network is. This could have been why we were so slow with things the other day. Obviously, pinging the other ones, because they're local, they're all going to be direct connections. Yep. I think, let me send you a link to another server. Okay, so there's the server in the data center there, and I'm going to try and ping that. And I always get a direct connection to this one, so I want to just see. Yeah, so you're getting a direct connection. So, yeah, that's interesting how you're not getting a direct connection to my Tailvault here. It's probably my network here is quite strict.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if mine is as well. I see that you have GLINet products behind you, the mobile router.
Yeah.
I'm actually on GLINet's Broom 2 right now, and it can be kind of strict sometimes.
Right. If you enable, I think it's called NAT coning, that can help.
You want me to do that now?
You can do, yeah, give it a try, yeah.
I actually have no idea how to do this because I never touched this.
But I'm assuming you're not kind of double natted here by any.
No, I shouldn't be now. So this is plugged directly into the Google Fiber, so you should have full wide open internet. The only thing that would be blocking it.
So there's a proper IP.
Yeah.
Which will be also erased out.
If it makes you feel any better, Google changes my IP like every other day. It's quite annoying, actually. So I can't set anything permanent up on the Google internet. I have to use AT&T if I want permanent connections, because AT&T doesn't change my IP address ever.
Sometimes enabling full cone NAT can help with stuff like this. So
yeah, I figured this might be a problem, so I went ahead and pulled up my router and logged in.
Okay, so we've now got a direct connection, so that has given us our direct connection. So anyone who's using GLINet equipment and you're not getting direct connections, then try enabling NAT coning. Also, it's good for gaming as well if you're using kind of Xbox and it says you've got kind of strict NAT and things like that, which my son always moans about when he's gaming and comes and asks me to have a look at it. So anyway, so here we can see we've got a direct connection from Stefano's server, which is obviously not on a bridge. But if we go into his actual container here and we look the same, so this is on a bridge as well. So this is now kind of in here is going to be double natted. So if we go into here and go to console and then run Tailscale status.
Yeah, there's too many PNASs in the way.
There is too many primary NASs there.
It's the prime directive.
Oh, dear. Right. Let's be serious. So let's do a Tailscale ping. So here we can see it's just going through DERP. It could not do a direct connection, basically because this is bridged. So what we're going to do is put this as onto the host network. So I'd recommend for Duplicati, put it on the host, and for the Tailvault, put it on bridge, because you're giving access to Tailvault and it's not actually connected onto the host network. I believe it's just a little bit more secure to do that way. And this now should hopefully get around our problem with it not having a direct connection. So let's go into Stefano's Duplicati. Now we could just go to Web UI or Tailscale Web UI if Stefano's got Tailscale installed onto his PC here. I'm assuming he hasn't, so I'm just going to click onto Web UI here. So now we need Stefano's super secret password. And let's click on to add backup and configure new backup next. And let's just call it test. And so now we need to make an encryption password. So if Stefano wants to pop in his super strong encryption password. And a second time. I think we should see what he's writing. I really do. Careful.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. It's a good thing we looked.
It's nothing bad, guys. So
for once,
I'm not. Yeah, I thought he'd have put one of his special phrases there. So okay, so that will basically encrypt all of the backups as they go across to my server. And now for destination, what we're going to choose is we're going to choose SFTP here. And so now if we go on to Stefano's Tailnet and go to my Tailvault here, and let's copy the IPv4 address and paste that in here. And obviously for SSH, port 22. Now you'll notice, for those of you who were paying good attention, that the container, it's using 2222, but that's the external if you are doing it on the local network. Because Tailscale is integrated inside, it will use 22. So don't put what this is here. Anyway, let's go back across here, and the path on the server, obviously it's /backups, which is the default mapped location, and I'm going to put /Stefano. Now, I've got to remember what username and password I made on my Tailvault. So obviously what it is, you have to kind of tell your friend, otherwise he's not going to be able to do anything. So it was Duplicati. I think I made it on mine, and I think the password was test01012. So with that in, we just click test connection, and it's saying no certificate was specified previously. So we click yes here, and because it didn't have a folder inside of backups, it's created a subfolder inside that backups folder there for Stefano. And so I click yes, and now it will test again, and it's saying the connection's worked. So this container is now connected over Tailscale directly to my share that I allow Stefano to have access to. So let's click on to next, and I'm going to ask Stefano to choose what he wants to back up here. So Stefano, if you click on my computer, it's a bit confusing in Duplicati. It says source data, but you go to computer and then scroll down and you'll find source, which is the mapped /source. So then if you expand that out, you'll be able to choose what you actually want to back up to me.
How about my ISOs folder?
Yep, that sounds good to me. So let's just click next. And here we can set up our schedule. So this is going to run basically every day. It looks like at 1 p.m. That's fine. We'll have that. And let's click next. And what it does, you can see here, is it makes it into 50 meg chunks. Here we can have like backup retention. We can keep all backups. Probably smart backup retention is, maybe one of the best to do, or we can just do delete backups that are older than, say, 1 month. Then he's not going to fill up my server with a whole load of stuff.
But I have so much homework that I want to share with you.
I know. So let's click save. And your password's easy to guess. We don't care.
I don't think anyone would have guessed what the password was, as it's written on my shirt. I mean, it's not on my shirt.
So we can't be bothered to wait till tomorrow or today at 1 p.m. So let's click run now. And whilst that's happening, I'm going to try and share with Stefano my screen so he can see what is backing up to my server. So
everybody really does have ISOs in their ISOs folder, right? Because I totally do. CentOS 7, Windows 7, lots of 7s in there.
But you can see it's like 400 gigs. So Stefano, that's quite a lot for our just test demo, but we can see it's going across.
It wasn't 400 gigs when I last looked. It's probably the homework folder that I forgot was in there. I think I'm actually just as surprised as you are that I have so much stuff in the ISOs folder. I could have swore it was just like 4 or 5 things.
Stefano, you didn't think to check. Come on, man.
Well, I did look briefly.
It must have been real brief, man.
That's what she said. Oh, wait. Dang, the self-burn.
Can you see that tab, Stefano, now?
No.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Stefano can actually see. So if we go to my shares here on this server into backup, so we can see there's the folder that was created, Stefano. And inside here, you see, I've got no idea what this is. It's all these chunks that are just backed up across into my server. And I will show you my container running here. So he's going straight into my Tailvault container here, which is on a bridge network. So, working absolutely fine. We might have to wait a little time for the backup to be finished, and then we can do a restore. But that's the magic of editing. Stefano and I can go and have a sandwich and a break.
This might take a long time.
Or I expect Stefano will go and play Turok or whatever it's called.
Turok.
Turok.
Escape from Turok. Hey, that'd be a pretty good
Escape
name.
from Turok. I remember an old N64 game. I'm sure it was called Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. I might be wrong. Yeah.
I think so. I think I only played Turok 64.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is called. Turok 64. Let's have a look. Yeah, Turok. So I don't know what Turok actually means. I have no idea. Obviously something if there's another game with that name in it.
Well, it's Tarkov, actually. I was making the joke.
Oh, jeez. Look at that, man. I've been got.
You fell into my trap card.
Tarkov.
Yeah, it's a fictional city in, I guess, like supposed to be like Ukraine or Russia. I don't know. One of the two. I can delete some stuff out of the folder.
Do we know what you're going to delete out of there?
Yeah.
As opposed to what's gone across. I think what we'll do, we'll just we'll stop this backup and then just do it again.
There we go.
Okay, so 12 gigs to go, and we're going at 21 megs per second. It's being encrypted as it goes.
So the speed that we're going at, are we limited by the speed of our hard drives, the array, and such?
It would be your upload speed probably, and just how quickly it's going to be making temporary files of all of these things, put them into blocks and sending them across. Yeah, so we're limited by, with the temporary files and where it's coming from. I don't know if your server's spinning Rust or SSDs.
Yeah, in this case, it's spinning Rust. Would it had helped if maybe this was all zipped first, or no?
No, make no difference. No.
Okay. I think that Final Cut Pro bundle that was in there is what undid us the last time. I didn't realize how big that bundle file was.
I actually managed to get all of my Christmas shopping done, Stefano, on Black Friday. I was very proud of myself.
Nice.
It's the first time in my life I think I haven't been panicking on Christmas Eve that I haven't still got all the presents.
Yeah, I'm a early Christmas shopper as well. Thankfully, we were only buying kids gifts this year. So it was super easy. Well, I also got my wife something, of course. But she was easy because she just wants the new Zelda game.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she doesn't watch this video before Christmas.
She won't. If she did watch the video, she wouldn't make it this far. She'd probably fall asleep.
Yeah. You guys, you're not going to fall asleep. This is very exciting.
Well, for us, I definitely would be excited watching it. But she's not too into technology quite like I am, so.
If everyone wonders why when I'm speaking to Stefano, I keep looking to my right, that's because where the picture is on the screen of Stefano. And my camera is on the left, so it looks like I'm looking away from him every time I'm actually talking to him.
Can't even look at me anymore.
Yeah, since Stefano came over to the UK, he's lost his beard.
I have.
He looks like I'm a new man.
Yeah, a lot of my close friends and family are like, "Why are you shaving? What happened to the beard? What's going on?" It's like, I don't know. I've had a beard for so long. Time to let it go.
Yeah.
And I think you saw it at its peak of how long it was too.
Yeah, it was long. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I just felt like shaving.
Yeah.
I'll stop shaving when I run out of razor blades because I'll be too lazy to go buy them. So
yeah. Well, it suits you either way. You look good with and without it, man. So yeah. I think this is a really cool way that people can actually share their server with others. and not have to rely on backing up into kind of like Google Drive or OneDrive. You know, if you've got a buddy, just buddy up, and you know, you could even send, you know, a hard drive over to a friend, put it into the Unraid server array, and then if you send your friend an 8 terabyte hard drive, there's no reason why you couldn't back up 8 terabytes.
Yeah, 8 terabytes for $10.99 a month. Friend discount.
Right, so we've finished our backup, so let's go onto your server and let's delete one of your ISOs. So should we delete these 2 CentOS ones here?
Sure. Oh, wait, can we delete the other? Oh, never mind.
So just to restore then, like I say, I can't see any of this data, what it is. It could have been anything that Stefano put here. So we just go to restore, click onto test, which is our backup job, and then click next. And here we can see, so if we'd done more backups, there would be more dates here. And we want to restore the 2 CentOS. And we can either go back into the original location or we can pick a new location.
So a long time ago, so Unraid had provided the key for this server. And so I was trying to think of like a good name for this server to make, because they was going to make a video basically for Unraid because of the key exchange, right? And so the only thing I could think of was, you know, PNAS. So I put that in the video. And then I don't know how long it was, like maybe like a week later, Spencer was finally like, hey, nice name for that server, by the way. I was like, yeah, I thought so. You know, Project Network Test Storage. Very good.
I didn't notice it on the first time we recorded when it went wrong. And then I was like looking at some of the footage of the day. I thought, damn it, I didn't even see that.
I try really hard not to call it out because I think it's just a nice little subtle thing.
It is funny.
And then so, you know, it may have been, you know, months before finally somebody, you know, when they were watching that video, they finally saw it and they took the time to comment and be like, hey, I saw that host name. That's so good. I was going to name it Doofer, I think, a long time ago, because I just love the way that sounds. And it's kind of a thing too, you know? So
I'm going to ask you, Stefano, what are your real servers called? I don't think I know.
Well, this is actually a very real server.
Well, your production servers, what you use
so
at home for everyday stuff.
My actual real everyday server is called Transcensia. And then
where's that name from?
It's from Sins of a Solar Empire. It's named after one of the star bases that they call Transcensia. Cool. From the Advent faction.
Right.
They actually made a second game finally after 15 years of begging for it.
Oh wow.
And then my third server, my actual test server that we should be using for this video, is named SUT, PSUT, ASUT. I don't remember, something SUT. So like system under test, basically.
Right.
And then I have another USB stick somewhere around here for another, you know, set of testings. I don't even know what one's called.
And what's your gaming rig at the moment? You still got the 4090?
That's right. Yeah. So rocking a 14700K, went through 3 of those through the RMA process. The final third one seems to be stable. I'm on 64 gigs of memory, but it's supposed to be
DDR5 or 4?
DDR5, yeah. It's supposed to be 7200 mega transfers, but the most I can get out of these things is 6600 mega transfers. And even then, it's not always stable. So usually I will flip between 6600 and 6400 depending on what I'm doing. And then I have an extra, I have like the Pro Creator motherboard that I accidentally dropped my AIO cooler on, so the pins on side of that are bent.
Oh man.
So I just wasted a $500 motherboard. And I've attempted to repair it, but I guess like the pins are just ever so like off by the nanometer that it doesn't have a good connection, so it just frequently crashes. I need to RMA that board, but I'm thinking about selling at a steep discount, maybe like $20 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I got some Gigabyte motherboard now that I was getting desperate to play video games one night, so I just ran to Best Buy and just grabbed whatever they have. I literally can't remember what it is.
I can't stand it when you kind of accidentally break something.
Yeah, especially something that expensive. And that's actually the first motherboard I've ever damaged my entire, 15 plus years of building PCs. And I just kind of slapped myself on the face in disappointment. And I leave it there on the shelf so I can look at it all the time and be like, yep, you broke that. Good job. So
I remember probably 20 years ago, a friend of mine, he had some brand new AMD CPU at the time, which was like one of the best. And he just was having some kind of issue. He didn't know that much about PC building, but he'd built this machine himself. And he just said, "Oh, Ed, can you have a look at it?" And he brought it around to my house. And I said, "Yeah, no problem. I'll have a look at it." And I took it apart a few times, put it together a few times. And I just wanted to see if it would post. And I thought, I can't be asked to put the heat sink on.
Yeah.
I thought surely if it's just 1 or 2 seconds, it'll be fine. It just blew the CPU. And so my mistake of trying to help him, I had to buy him a new CPU.
Wow.
So that was a bitter pill to swallow.
That's pretty wild. I've done it several times where I don't put a cooler on there just to see if I can get in the BIOS and then, somewhat quickly turn off. I've never heard of that before.
No,
I kind of wish the pins were bent on the CPU instead. Well, the CPU doesn't have pins, but if it did, it's a lot easier to like straighten those out versus the pins. And now they're so they're layered.
I'll tell you, I think they started, when they had the pins on the CPUs were always, I think, much more expensive than motherboards. And so they thought, well, let's put the pins on the motherboard because if they're bent, it's cheaper for people to replace. But now motherboards have got so expensive. Like you can pay $1,000 for a consumer motherboard.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of money, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the Z790 Pro Art that I bought is the most expensive motherboard ever. And I was like, this is gonna be great because this will really help with making content. It has 10 gig networking on board, all that jazz. And now it's a brick. And it's like, man, I was thinking back to when I was a kid. I was like, man, $50 for a motherboard? That's insane. Like, I'd never pay that. This motherboard's only $30. I'll get this one instead. And now, they start at what feels like $100, almost all of them.
Well, you buy a motherboard for $150 and people say that's a budget board almost,
right?
Don't they,
And it's wild, how much has changed in only 10 years, $150. I guess, the motherboards now are just packed with way more features than we had when, in our younger days. But I mean, it still feels like there's a 600% markup on those things.
Yeah. I think if they could get away with doubling the price, they would.
Yeah, I think so. I think
they just companies have learned to push to the max of what people will pay.
Yeah.
And, they're always looking for what that max will be.
On the plus side, I feel like you get a lot more value out of CPUs these days because, like I mentioned earlier, I had a 5960X and, that CPU was $1,200 for 6 cores and 12 threads or something to that effect, right? And, I had 42 PCIe lanes and just literally everything you could ask for in a consumer CPU. But now, I mean, you could the 14700K is $300 some odd dollars, and it's got 24 threads, and can handle a terabyte of memory if you could manage to afford that. And it's just, but the amount of value you get is much higher out of CPUs, I think, these days.
Yeah, we've spoken about it before, Stefano, when you were over here, about how disappointing it is with consumer motherboards and CPUs with the amount of lanes you get nowadays.
Yeah, they do. I don't know what changed, but I think maybe they're I honestly don't know. Anything I say is probably a guess and also wrong, but the fact that they're reducing PCIe lanes just really bothers me. And then they have, I think on the AMD side, they increased them from like 20 to 24, but
Hmm.
it's like 24 lanes. Just give me 42, 40, 48.
They just say a consumer just needs a GPU and some NVMEs, and that's it. And there's no, well, what else do you want a computer for?
Yeah, and then even more disappointing. So then you're like, fine, I'll get a workstation CPU, so like an Intel W, whatever, like 2299, whatever it is, right? Well, those also only have 20 some odd lanes, and it's like, but this is supposed to be for professionals. And then they also rip out Intel QuickSync because they want you to buy their super premium workstation, CPUs that still also only have 20 lanes. And that's like, all right, I need more lanes. And they're like, okay, well, welcome to Xeon, where you have, 128 lanes, but no QuickSync. And it's like, come on. This is why Intel's failing as a company.
I'm going to show you something, Stefano, that I was very kindly given by someone who has been a supporter of my YouTube channel for a long time. And I actually met him for the first time probably about a month or two ago, and he gave me an old motherboard of his. I will show it you.
Okay. Wow, it's so big. Yeah, you don't get a lot of lanes like that anymore these days either.
So yeah, it's an old X99 board, and I've got a different CPU to go in, just an older Xeon, so I can use all of the lanes. I think it's an i7 in there currently. But
yeah, X99 was pretty peak, and then I think X299. I think it was X299 had marginal improvements over X99. But yeah, ever since X99, the number of like CPU features, or like PCIe lane bifurcation has always been reduced generation after generation after generation. So I'm just glad they at least allow us to do it at this point. It truly is heartbreaking.
Yeah, what I thought I'd do with the X99 is I'm going to swap out my main server with that. So all of my drives, everything I have in, I'm going to put it in exactly the same. I'm going to see if I actually notice any difference between, how old must that be? 10 years old, I would imagine now.
Yeah. It's 12.
So I'm going to see how well, 10, 12-year-old hardware is. Do I notice the difference? And also I'm going to track its power usage.
It's a lot more,
for a week or so, and see, and then try and work out how much it would cost me a year to run that, how much it would cost me a year to run my kind of 13600K, which is the server that's on most of the time.
So with X99 was the first to introduce PCI 4, right? Or no, DDR4 memory.
Yeah,
so
DDR4,
yeah. And so, like I actually use my 5960X to this day still as one of my test servers. So that would be SUT, system under test. And honestly, it's perfectly fine for everything I've thrown at it. It does really well with. It's got tons of, since it has so many PCIe lanes, you can add in 6 graphics cards, all, with 16 full lanes, and you can use the SATA on your motherboard. And oh, by the way, you can use NVMe, and your NVMe slots on the motherboard have 4 lanes each. So it's like there's no sacrifices on anything on those boards. And honestly, I think you'll probably find it's quite the treat when you get it all hooked up.
Go
ahead.
I think another reason why we don't see so many lanes nowadays is because we don't run multiple graphics cards together, like bridged together. Like what did the NVIDIA call it? Was it SLI they called it? Yeah. So because there's none of that anymore, we don't need, there's no kind of reason for the average person to run multiple GPUs.
Yeah. And that's why Extreme Series existed, right? So like if you wanted to do that, you had to pay a pretty penny to get it, but there's no Extreme Series CPUs anymore. Like Intel they've changed. They just seem like they're trying to manufacture the cheapest product they can at the highest price that they can. And they just completely, through the enthusiasts to the wind. All right, it's done.
Okay, cool. So it has successfully restored. So let's see if that is true. And we've got our 2 Centoses back. They've been a long way today, a lot further than we've both been. They've been across the Atlantic and back.
Yep. And I noticed that the permissions are still the same too.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't really think we need to do the same test of me backing up to you. I think that test was absolutely fine. It will just bore everyone, I'm sure. We won't bore you with the same test the other way, but that's a really cool way using Tailscale to securely carve out some server space on a friend server and be able to safely back up your data, keeping it private. So, anyway, Stefano, I'm going to say thank you very much for your help today, with doing this. Maybe if you've got some time in the future, we can do a bit of the CFS replication across Tailscale as well. Might be fun.
Always, of course.
Sometimes in the future. But
I will always make time for you.
Thank you very much, Stefano. Very much appreciated, and likewise too. And so I'm going to let Stefano do the outro on this one. So,
I actually am not sure. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Catch you later.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.